the Bank of Agriculture in Sudan, and I would like to make strategic partnerships with Brazil. Brazil has a lot of experience in agriculture, and we want to have strategic relations in this area with Brazil. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I would like to thank all those who are present and the Brazil Arab Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to give the floor to my colleague. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, your excellencies, I am a mineral engineer, Mohammed Hatib. I work in the Sudanese Company of Mineral Resources. And in the control of this center, it also depends on the mining area of Sudan, and I would like to give you the opportunity in this area, which is very important for us. And this sector is considered one of the most important sectors in Sudan, and it is a pillar currently. So gold in Sudan is very important. It has its position in the world. So we had 64 tons mined in 2024. This went up to 70 tons in 2025. And this is proof that the sector is still working, it is still dynamic, and it's still working. And many companies still work with all of its energy, all of their energy in this field. So I would like to talk about some numbers. So when we talk about the companies that produce gold currently, there are 100 companies, and they are ready to go into the production area because they have already completed the exploring phase. And we also have 165 companies that work on the exploration, among which 41 companies have different nationalities and 41 are from Sudan. So the message here is very strong, and it means that this is an important sector, although I talked about our difficulties. And Sudan today is not gold. There are other minerals involved. So in chromium and copper, manganese, phosphate as well. And it is called the green mineral that generates the desire of many companies around the world. And Sudan has a lot of this mineral. And besides that, there's also some opportunities that I would like to present to you, to my brothers in Brazil, the gold commerce. It's direct commerce and other minerals as well. So we need to create a direct relationship. So we have to come out of here creating a direct channel that is serious and transparent and based on the components for gold commerce. And we're going to talk about Sudan and Brazil. And this is an open door to investment. It's also an open door to create other opportunities. And this is good for Brazilians as well as for creating a better commercial balance between both countries and opening the doors to foreign investments, especially those coming from Brazil. And we are not looking only for the mining area, we are looking for investment or a partner that can invest. So we are looking for experiences, taking advantage of the Brazilian experience, because Brazil has the capacity to use the gold mines and transfer technology as well. And institutional exchange can also happen. So I invite those Brazilians who are responsible for this to create opportunities like in the Vale company, and we have several minerals in Sudan, and a company like Vale can explore this and can attract investments. So I'd also like to call our brothers from the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce to create direct channels in terms of governance in mining and the National Mining Agency. And this is what we do in Brazil. And I would like to ask the chamber to coordinate or have a memo of understanding between both sides. So before I end, I would like to say that Sudan has several opportunities, and Brazil has the experience and the technology that is necessary for this. And we're going to build a relationship. Let's use this complementary relationship in this area so that the mining sector will grow, taking advantage once again of the Brazilian experience. We are not looking for partners for funding. No, we are looking for partners who are going to develop this sector, who are going to explore this sector, and will bring added value to this sector. So I'm sure that the Brazilian Arabic Chamber of Commerce has the adequate platform for that. And our Sudanese embassy here in Brazil will also help us to create this partnership in the mining area. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are now going to have a conversation about climate. So we're going to call the chair of sustainable business from COP30, Ricardo Musta.
Obrigado, viu? Obrigado, pessoal. I think I'll switch to English. It's easier to Portuguese, whatever you prefer. English is easier. Okay, so let's do it in English. Always in English. So thank you very much for receiving me here today. It's an honor to participate on this forum. I have my background, of course, from Arab countries, so feel very good to be here today with you. What I'm going to talk about, Sustainable Business COP, is an initiative that it was created in Brazil last year to really mimic what was done during the B20 and the G20. There is a tradition for the past 17 years that every time the G20 meets in a country, they ask for the private sector to get together and help on the negotiation process. So we try to do the same, what the B20 does for the G20. We created last year in Brazil the SB COP, who represents the private sector on the negotiations of the United Nations. So what you're going to see here tonight, so please, if you can help me, yes. This has been Sustainable Business COP is an initiative that represents the united, I would say, the union of chambers of industry and commerce around the globe. So today we have more than 100 countries represented by SB Corp. So what we did, we came like, in Brazil, we have a chamber called CNI, who is the Confederation of National Industry in Brazil. In US, we have US Chamber. In China, we have CCPIT. In India, they have the Confederation of Industries of India. So what we did was asking them to join in a group that represents more than 55 million companies around the globe. So you see on the next slide, so if you can help me change, it's not working here. Let's go, please. Let's see if it will work. Yes. I think that's an important slide. So what we're doing here, how can we participate on the discussions of the United Nations on the COP process? So we decided to really go through the chambers of industry and commerce. So those are the chambers represented here today that we sit down in the United Nations to talk about the discussions on the climate agenda. So this has been very unique, in my view, because we congregate here more than 55 million companies, 103 countries. You can see here Europe, Americas, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. So we are growing more in Asia. The target is to have more than 150 countries next year. Why this is important? We never had a place inside the United Nations for the private sector to talk and to engage. And right now we have something that is really well structured. So you can imagine when I go to United Nations in Europe, in Bonn, or in New York, they are giving us a seat on the table to talk and represent the private sector, what we're doing. And how do we do that? It's very challenging. If you look into how it's organized, the United Nations, on discussing climate, they have 197 countries and has to be by consensus. So if one country say no, we cannot move forward. So it's very challenging how to influence a negotiation that you need consensus. But we never had until last year a place for the private sector to sit on the table and be represented. So what we did, so this is an example of last year, 2025. You can see here on the bottom, we had 8 different working groups for topics. Why I'm explaining that, you see that your company, your confederation, your country, can help us this year in something very similar. So we have 8 different working groups. We ask for CEOs around the globe to join those working groups with knowledge partners. So the idea was have experts. Well, for instance, we have the CEO of Nestle, the CEO of Bunge, the CEO of BYD coming to work on those working groups to prepare 3 things that we did last year. So on the next slide, please, you can change. You see, please, one more, yes. We delivered 3 things last year. First, we delivered a recommendation, a letter to the United Nations, to the COP president, saying what are the most important topics for the private sector. And this has been very important because what I learned over those processes, you have to be very few priorities to deliver to the United Nations. So first of all is a letter to the COP presidency. Second, it's what we call action agenda. There is inside the discussions of the climate, what they call what are the actions that the private sector needs to engage throughout the 5-year plan that they have in place. We also contribute on that. And finally, something that I'd like to share with you today is the SB Corp Awards. So what we did, we thought the best way to really convince the United Nations or the governments to follow or to go to a path is through examples. So we asked for the private sector around the globe to send us their best examples. Once we receive those examples of cases that are fighting climate change, have financial return, that's very important, and can be scalable, we select the best ones to showcase. So last year, inside the COP process, what they call the blue zone, for those who are familiar, there is a place when you have the COP happening that you can, the governments are there, the ministers, the presidents, the confederation. Then we presented the best cases. That was the SB Cop Awards. So you see some pictures on the next slides of what we did last year. So please, if you can go to the next slide. The control is not working. We received more 1,400 different cases of good examples, what's happening in Malaysia, what's happening in South Africa, good examples. And we showcase the 50 best ones throughout the COP process. That was one of the highlights. So please, next one. Go back one. Please, just go back one, yes. This is what we did last year. So we have a picture there with Michael Bloomberg delivering in New York. So this year in New York, end of September, we are going to do the same. We are going to deliver the recommendations of the private sector to the United Nations in the New York Climate Week. That's what we did last year, and we are going to replicate the model this year. So here you have the organization of 2026. So we have, you see on the bottom here, the working groups that we are working on, the thematics, so energy transition, biodiversity, agriculture and food system that you discussed here prior to that. You have like finance. Why I'm telling all that, if your company wants to participate, you can. So on the next slide, it's an invitation of, please go to the next slide. It's an invitation for you to join. We are going to do 3 things here. We are going to deliver the letter to the president. We select the best cases, and we're going to do the reports for the action agenda. So 2 things. If your company or your federation or in your country wants to participate on this process, there is a QR code that you can access. Those are the 6 groups that we are joining the private sector to participate. So you can go there and be a member. It's fantastic. You have access to a lot of data, a lot of information from that. And finally, I think the final slide is also an invitation. We are going to have an award this year for best cases. I was here, Sudan here, showing some examples of what they're doing there. So we are opening for companies who wants to showcase good examples of what they are doing around the globe. We are receiving those cases. We are going to select the best ones, and we're going to present during the COP process in Turkey in November to really try to influence the delegations that are going to be there. So I think the final message here that I wanted to share with you guys is, now we have an organization that is organizing how we sit down at the table with the governments around the globe to discuss what's important for the private sector in the climate agenda. This is SB COP. We use 2 things to do it. We use working groups to gather data from the private sector around the globe and create recommendations, and we lead by example. So we do this example case of collecting what is working around the globe and showing the governments around the globe what is working. So in any countries on the Middle East or Brazil, if there are good examples that we want to share, let's use this initiative to share and convince and spread what are the good things that the private sector are doing. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope we can be here next year showing more what we're doing. Thank you.
Obrigada, Ricardo.
Thank you very much, Ricardo Musa. He talks about sustainable issues in COP30, and now we're going to talk about the challenges and solutions for resilience of the global chains and the maritime routes. They are so important. And we have connectivity, multimodal connectivity with Brazil and Arab countries, Africa and Asia, and the strength of the Arab hubs as re-exportation platforms. So we would like to invite onto stage Mr. Khaled Hanafi, the General Secretary of the General Union of Arab Chambers. Welcome.
مساء الخير
So, good afternoon, everyone. It is very clear that we are coming to the end of the day. We're running a little late, right? So, I would like to send a very brief message to you, which is the opportunity to think about the subject. And we're talking about the logistic runners. In this session, we're talking about resilience as well of these carriers. So, very briefly, I would like to talk about the commercial corridor and the logistics corridor, and we can see that the ship and the port, everything is being done with the support that has to be given to these corridors. So the current operations are changing. Today, the principle has changed. And in this chain, you have to take into consideration all of the details that were not considered before. And that's before you start looking at the freight or before you actually send something to the producer, and in the inspection as well, and in the funding. And all of this is important. So, all of these details, what I would like to suggest is for us to talk about an equation of a resilient corridor. So, why don't we talk about resilient paths? So, this has to be has to have a different approach compared to what we had before. And this resilient path needs details, it needs attention to aspects that we did not take into consideration before. And the first thing about this new approach is what I would call movement. The second thing is what I would call the storage. So, storing things. And the third key word is the financing. And the fourth thing is knowledge. So, when I talk about these aspects, for example, of movement, the corridor needs to have the possibility of moving and between several centers. So you have the capacity of movement, and this takes into account different scenarios and also changes in the port conditions. What we see happening around the world now, we're going to discover that many producers, many exporters were obliged to stop working because they were not able to adapt, they were not able to move. So, moving is an important aspect that needs to be considered in new scenarios. Now, with regard to storage, you need to have ports, distribution ports in several places to be able to guarantee the success of the operation. So, in other words, the idea of a great stock and great storage, this is not intelligent. You need to diversify the storage so that you can be more practical. And today, you should adapt to this idea of several storage points, and it has to be strategic, so distributed in a strategic manner in different places and according to several models in the Arab world, for example, and in several places in the Arab world with different storage in strategic areas. They were able to address the demand during a crisis and even after the closing of the of the main passages that we used before. Now, with regard to the funding, that's also a very important aspect. So you can have resilience, you can have options, but if you don't have the ability to fund from funding from different places and having insurance warranties, especially in the moment of crisis, then you're going to be exposed to a crisis. So you need to have resources to be able to diversify your funding. And the last point is knowledge. So you need to have data that can be used at the right time and that can alert us in the alert to a crisis. So what I wanted to say in a simplified manner, these logistic and commercial paths are not the same anymore. Nowadays, it's not just one port in a single storage place, and we also have things that changed, and the context has changed, and you need to diversify. And this person can deal with a crisis. So there are several options, and you can store this so that you can have a maneuvering area in several places. And this could be, for example, what I was talking about in the morning. We can use this because it is in these proposals that you're going to get resilience, to add value, and this is what we were talking about this morning. And we need to protect this added value because and this is what we do, and we need to take these first steps to recreate these paths. So this is the Arab side, the Brazilian side. We have the beginning of serious work so that we will have this kind of path open to us. And then as a result, we will be able to create whatever we want in terms of commerce and industry. And we will also be able to add value, because if we continue in the traditional manner, we're going to increase our challenges. But if we actually pull up our socks and do different work and we join our efforts, and with several possibilities of entry and exit, and what we call in terms markets and places for funding and storage and increasing resilience, then if we are able to translate the initiative, then we're going to be able to have success. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you for the participation of Halatanafi. And we're going to go deeper into this subject with our next guests. And Ali Tamuk from the Zona Franca of Salala. Let's give him a hand. Fábio Siqueirino, the CEO of Deep Road Brazil. Let's give him a hand. He's on his way. Lishan El Sadi, the Executive Director of the Mediterranean Shipping Company, NSC, in Saudi Arabia. Welcome. Let's give him a hand as well. And then Sara Gazar from the University of International Transport and Logistics from the Arab Academy for Science and Technology and Maritime Transport. Let's give her a hand. Maher Noor, the founder and CEO of Orbitra, with us online. He'll be connected with us in a minute. And to manage this panel, we're going to invite Justin Alexander, the director of Halis Economics. So welcome, everyone. And let's give him a hand as well.
And go.
Thank you very much. So we've had great conversations so far today, celebrating partnerships in the Arab world and Brazil, and also looking to opportunities in the future and challenges to that. And at the center of all of this is trade and logistics. And Dr. Khaled has shared some thoughts about that. We have the pleasure of having a really excellent panel here. And I wanted to start with Fabio, who is the chief executive of DP World, Dubai Ports here in Brazil, operating the port of Santos. And I know that Dr. Khaled has a vision for a trade corridor between Brazil, Latin America, and the Arab world from Santos. So it'd be great to hear more about how the port is operating. I know you're investing 1.6 billion reals to expand your capacity. Tell us how that's operating and what's coming next.
Eu vou falar em português.
I'm going to speak in Portuguese. It's easy. I think it's important to quickly comment on DP Road that is operating in 85 countries. We have 82 ports, port terminals. We have a port terminal in Santos. And as Justin said, we are expanding it now. We are investing a total amount of investment for the terminal. It's almost 5 billion reais, almost $1 billion. We are increasing the container capacity. We operate 5 million tons of cellulose, and we are building a terminal to export 9 million tons of grains and 3.5 million tons of fertilizers. And what we have worked a lot on is when we look at all of the ruptures that have happened in these value chains and the choke points that we have done. We always have to think that the companies today, they have to work in a model called a double chain. What does that mean? It means to create resilience. So it's not actually doubling your whole chain. When you double your chain, when you duplicate it, you just add cost. What we need to have is a B chain, so a B plan that is completely ready and a system that allows us through technology to analyze the international movements that will give us predictability about when I need to activate chain B. That is the challenge for you to avoid adding cost to the system. And what we have observed when you are looking at these or creating these value chains, one of the crucial points is how we do it. The main product, especially in Brazil, because of its continental dimensions, how can I make the product get to the port in an efficient way, in a competitive way? So this is one of the greatest problems in infrastructure in Brazil today. We have to invest in the port, but we also have a brutal challenge of making the cargo come out of the farm or of the industry and get to the port in an efficient way. So this is the great challenge. So Brazil has a huge infrastructure gap. Brazil invests 2.2% of the GDP in infrastructure, and it should invest 5.4% of the GDP. So for us to be able to support the growth of Brazil and increase its participation in these chains, we have to invest in infrastructure and establish strategic and efficient corridors, especially with the Arab countries. So I think it's a brutal opportunity. And Brazil, as the biggest mineral producer, the biggest producer in terms of soybean and sugar and cellulose and corn, we have to establish these strategic corridors, especially with the Arab countries, and we need investment in infrastructure to be able to establish these corridors. And these challenges go through greater stability, regulatory stability, greater legal safety. And another huge challenge in Brazil is the cost of capital. So we have a few challenges, and this has been shown by CNI research. And this is strategic for Brazil to be able to increase its competitiveness, increase its values, and establish these strategic corridors.
May need to leave early, so please feel free to when you need to.
Thank you.
Maybe it's good then to move from a Brazilian or a Brazil-based port operator to a port in the Gulf. Dr. Mohammed Ali Tabuk here is the CEO of Salalah Free Zone in Oman, which is connected to the port of Salalah, which is one of the great transshipment terminals on the Indian Ocean. I believe you've grown your capacity by about 15% in the first half of this year. And Dr. Ali has worked there, I think, for nearly a quarter of a century. So you've seen the development of Salalah. And he has a doctorate in business administration from Nottingham in the UK. Dr. Ali, Salah's location outside of the Strait of Hormuz has clearly been a strategic asset this year and going forward. Can you make the case to Brazilian exporters here in this room why they should look to using Salalah for transshipment and also to locate processing and manufacturing in your free zone?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here in this great country, to be with the great people. I believe Oman and Brazil has, I would say, great opportunities to work together. And we are very proud to have Valley in Oman as a key example of investment that comes from Brazil, expanded in Oman, and reached the entire world. From the beginning of this conference, I was just trying to think what could be the ending of us being here today. We are here to come and share experience. We are here, we flew from our country to be with you here. I flew from Oman 16 hours. I was sleeping half of the time, by the way. So basically, to be here, to share our experience, to share the potential we have, it is a message to the Brazilian business community. I know the whole world is going through a large, I would say, a revolution of so many changes happening. And we must cope with these changes, even though we feel very sad about what's happening in the world. But we believe there is an opportunity because people need food, people need medicine, people need support during this difficult timing. In Oman, because Oman is a friend of everyone, in Oman we created a network with everybody, trying to be a friend with all. So to help to work closely with our friends in Brazil and be the platform for them to reach the world. And Oman is actually close to very potential markets. I'll be honest with you. We in Oman only 5 million people. So it's not really going to be bigger for the Brazilian market. So we will be the hub, the destination that helps the Brazilian, I would say, private sector and people wish to invest to reach a larger market like East Africa, close to us. We have Yemen, 40 million people in only 160 kilometers away. We have FTA with multiple countries. Recently, India is being added. We have larger infrastructure and superstructure and a legal system that helps investors to set up their business there and feel safe and secure to grow and grow. So to be honest, I'm here along with my colleague Mohsen, who keeps taking photo all the time, to help you, to give you all the information that you need to invest in Oman. We will be here for 3 days more. And we would love to meet with those who is willing to invest in Oman. To connect with what's going on right now, I believe Oman could be the gateway in very direct. We will be the gateway for Brazilian products, Brazilian services that wish to expand to 2.5 billion consumers in the region. So Oman is having access to all these. Plus, Oman is a friend of the world. We don't have enemies. We are a friend of all. To be on that part of the region and be a friend of all, it's really an art. And that's what we're doing. We're good in that. So thank you very much. This is what I thought to share with you.
Thank you, Thank you, Dr. Ali. And I can affirm that Oman is an incredibly friendly place to visit and do business, and as is Saudi Arabia. So maybe I'll move to the end here, where Hisham Al-Ansari, he leads MSC, the Mediterranean Shipping Company in Saudi Arabia. That's the world's largest container line in one of the world's most ambitious logistics markets. He serves on the logistic committees of the Jeddah and Eastern Provinces chambers. And this month, MSC launched a new multimodal corridor linking Saudi Arabia, linking its Red Sea ports and the Gulf Coast by rail and road, partly in response to the current disruptions. Hisham, could you walk us through how your new multimodal corridor works? What does it mean in practice for a shipper that faces a disruption in the Red Sea? And what does it signal now about how carriers design for volatility, not just efficiency?
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank everyone to give us this opportunity to be here. To reply to your question, actually, I go back a little bit on the disruptions which has happened in Middle East after Hormuz was closed, and then the gateways that Saudi Arabia tried to establish. In April, actually, April and May, there was these big movements of cargo which was coming through the Red Sea going to Middle East, to GCC countries. Now, this interruption was one of the biggest that we have seen in the history of, let's say, modern maritime movements. And on this, by default, the things were not in place from day one. So what we used to do at the beginning of the crisis was to track everything down to the borders of the different countries and use the tracking facility to move cargo. Of course, there are some countries within the region, within GCC, that apart from Hormuz, does not have any gateways outside, and this was a kind of a plan B for them. On this particular topic of plan B, there was a lot of talks between the governments of the region, and we were also through various Chamber of Commerce committees discussing about how easy it was to move the cargo around. Of course, then whether it is cargo coming from here, from this part of the world, or from anywhere else, the cargo has to reach to the final destinations. There was a lot of talk about food security. There was a lot of talk about medicines. There were a lot of talks about the needs of the people within the GCC countries. And the thing started by experimenting various options that allowed us to move cargo around. Of course, within the region, you have only few ports that were functioning. Saudi Arabian West Coast ports, you had Salalah, you had Suhar, you had Khurfakan, and that's it. So the options was not really too much. So we started cross-bordering with the trucks, a lot of issues, a lot of problems in terms of cross-bordering, and then we have brought in to a new era, let's say, of intermodal, which was sea, land, sea, where we could bring the cargo from the coast of the west coast of Saudi Arabia into the east coast of Saudi Arabia. And this was like a couple of months ago, where the system worked very well, but still not as efficient as it had to be. We were talking to various stakeholders within the government states, and then finally we could bring this new mode which you are referring to, which is the intermodal, where we come from the west coast of Saudi Arabia by truck, go to Riyadh, where is the train system is working, and go by train to the Dammam port, and then from there distribute the cargo by feedering system, which has proved actually quite a bit of efficiency. Here, generally talking, and on a big scale, let's say if you go to look at the problem from the helicopter view, any time saving within the logistics, within the ecosystem, is always helping in terms of being more efficient, because we are not talking about movement of a small cargo, we are talking about really huge number of containers which has to move. On these regards, again, the food security is one of the most important part almost the governments of the region is concerned about, which with these new routes enabled us to deliver to the final customers.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure Brazilian exporters and importers from the Arab countries, from the Gulf particularly, may have experienced some disruptions, but it's encouraging that these new multimodal routes, and there are innovative solutions to deal with these disruptions because of the geopolitics.
But one thing is there also, which I want to refer to, that these new modes of transportation, which has been built and experimented, will not end should, let's say, the problems or the disruptions or the crisis end. At the end of the day, the trade is all about fast movement of the cargo. And today, if even the crisis over, and if even the Hormuz is opened, if today we come as a logistics company, offer a kind of supply chain which is faster by, let's say, 12 days, ecosystem which is more efficient on terms of cost savings and so on, I think what we are aiming at is not that today we serve certain markets with the certain mode of transportation. What we are doing, in fact, in Saudi, together with our help of our government, is to build a sustainable route, even for future, even when the system is back to normal, then we could come and say that, okay, for Brazilian exporters, if today, on a normal circumstances, the transit from Brazil to any of GCC countries is 40 days, for example, tomorrow we could save 10 or 12 days and come and say that, okay, we could save with these new systems that we are putting in place, even without the crisis, dramatic amount of time and money, and always for trade, time is money, so that we could offer a sustainable service to the customers.
It's a very good point that the crisis has created opportunity to make things more efficient. And this brings in our fourth panelist here, Dr. Sara Al-Ghazar. So she's Dean of the College of Transport and Logistics at the Arab Academy in Cairo. That's the Arab League University. And in fact, I believe Dr. Khalid was your predecessor there as Dean. So continuing that tradition. She's a scholar of supply chains. And so perhaps I can ask you, your research is about measuring what supply chains actually cost. So, when ships have to divert because of a crisis or wait things out, such as in these current disruptions, how is the burden of those supply chain costs, how is it shared between a Brazilian exporter, say, and an Arab importer? And what investments in building resilience are cost effective?
أولا أنا سعيدة بوجودي مع حضرتك.
I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm always happy to work in Brazil and to participate in events in Brazil. So your question is very important because we changed the route, we changed our way of thinking through the cooperation in the Arab area and in Brazil. And there is a very good relationship between politics and commerce, and the political conflict shows that this is a tool that you have in all of the political conflicts and all of the routes that we considered to be long-lasting, like the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. They became logistic routes that are threatened, and they expose many risks. And in the previous years, we did not have another logistic alternative. And all the partners, they were talking as if it were something long lasting, and logistics was not studied as a risk factor. And there were no costs, there was no provision of expenses for that. So things have changed. And in the last few years, we can see that the strategic routes that are new routes are being considered in the investment projects and the feasibility studies, and in order to replace traditional routes like Bab el-Mandeb or the Strait of Hormuz. And we also need to have more resilience. That's what we noticed. So you have to be prepared for logistic alternatives, and therefore the exchange between Brazil and the Arab world in terms of logistics has to go through information exchange to what we call networking. And this formation of networks, you have to see the relationship between Brazil and the Arab world as a hub to be able to integrate the commercial operations in Latin America. And this is through all of the different routes that you have in this region, and all of the different phases that we work with when we have a commercial exchange. And if it is more available, a route is more available, or you're going to have a different route to be able to get to this region. And in the Arab world, when you see the map from Morocco in the European continent and the African continent until Egypt, that you have in the Mediterranean, until you get to the Gulf countries, and then you create something from these countries that involves several continents. So the relationship between Brazil and the Arab countries, this is strategic, and it takes into consideration the geographic diversity. Transport also needs to have several modalities. So you have to go from a single form of maritime transport or land transport so that you can get to different modalities. And you have to think that to get to the final destination, maybe you need to use several modes of transport and check which one is best. And today we need to be resilient, and this resilience needs to be studied so that it is long-lasting, and sometimes it's not cheaper, it's more expensive, and you have to check the priorities of each supply chain, because sometimes you have a crisis that changes the routes. Now, we also have the complementary added value. So I cannot be the only one responsible from the beginning to the end, and I have to take care of one phase in one country, and then in Brazil it's another phase. Somebody else is going to be in charge of it. So the supply chain is complementary, not independent. So it is necessary to have several hubs so that you can analyze all of the different phases. Now, if we look at Egypt and the Arab world and the halal products, in the halal system, we have a certification for the products that are exported to the Arab world. No, that's not the only thing. It is an integration system, it's a global system that should have a replenishment from storing and transport until it gets to its final destination. So the Arab countries, they're going to be the hubs that will distribute these halal products to Africa and to the Mediterranean and to other regions. Therefore, it has to be a component of an added component. So everything that I said and these conditions, they demand some positioning. So I cannot change things without that. So the first condition is that you need to have a relationship between commerce and logistics. We're talking about Mercosur, we're talking about BRICS, we're talking about free trade agreements. So the agreements exist, but they are not operated or applied. You have to create bilateral commerce, and this needs to be complementary. And for me, that's important. And Brazil is one of the countries, one of the five countries, one of the five biggest countries in the world that does direct investment or FDI. And my question, with the volume and the Arab world in this investment, the answer is very weak. So the Arab world, in spite of its importance, although it imports and exports a lot to Brazil, in this equation, the Arab world is well represented because in both sides, you have a linear relationship, not a strategic one, and you don't have a strategic partnership. So we don't work with direct investment with Brazil, we work with a direct relationship. And therefore, this this linear association should be transformed into strategic commerce. And there should be a corridor of commerce, not of understanding. So when there is exposure here in Brazil, when there's a trade fair, for example, we see the products and the merchandise, you're going to choose 3 that you want, and another country is going to choose 2. But the right thing is for both to have an understanding of the culture. They will have to understand the Brazilian reality, and they should create a strategic relationship, not only a linear relationship between Brazil and our countries. Therefore, this is the true problem in the cooperation between Brazil and the Arab countries. So that's why we need to increase and strengthen this relationship, and we need to know each other, even culturally speaking. So the key between the Arab countries and Brazil is culture. And many countries, they understood this. For example, China that invaded Brazil and the Arab world. Why? Because they understood that the cultural aspect is very important. It's not only business, not only a commercial, unilateral, or linear association. The cultural presence is also very important. So if you understand the culture of the Arab entrepreneurs, you're going to do better business with them. So if you invade the market with your product, but you understand the market and you create this strategy and you bring added value, you're going to improve the situation. What I mean is that the opportunities exist, and this alliance that was mentioned by Dr. Khalida Brava, I would like to suggest halal fertilizers, and we can also choose logistics centers in the Arab world and other centers in Brazil to be able to work on networking and to also have logistics centers to invite the different delegations of entrepreneurs for them to meet and for them to learn about the culture on each side. Therefore, they need to look at the cultural level before they do commerce. Thank you.
And that's one of the many examples of some of the documentation that needs to go, that underlies trade. And that's a good introduction to engineer Maha Noor, who's joining us online from the UAE. He's the founder and the CEO of Orbitra, which is a venture building digital infrastructure that underlies trade. He was previously the director for innovation at Revival Lab Ventures in Riyadh. Engineer Noor, Orbitra calls itself the digital backbone for trade, verify, trace, finance. Can you make that real for us with a single shipment? Say a container of Brazilian chicken landing in Jeddah. When something goes wrong today in documents, with trust with payments, what does that same situation look like running on your system?
First of all, thank you very much to Secretary General Mohammed Murad and the ABCC team for such an amazing event filled with people who are based in resilience, as well as Dr. Khalid for touching on some really critical points. So now to directly address the question you had, you're faced with two things. First of all, primarily your ability for your team to be able to collaborate immediately. So what happens is most teams are fragmented. So you have compliance team, you have your operations team, you have your finance team. Each one of them is trying to solve individual problems. Collaboration is extremely important, and that starts at the data layer. Now, there's two forms of data when we talk about harmonization within an organization, so they're able to collaborate and execute in a timely fashion. When these things happen, the truth is that you can't stop it. What's happened has happened. What is up to you is how do you create maximum optionality? And that optionality is going to come to you and derive that of your data. Today, we're looking at the Strait of Hormuz. We are already seeing difficulties within Ukraine and Russia for several years. This is actually when the food security conversation really came up. This actually brings to another point, which is right now you have an aging out within the trade finance and within the trade ecosystem. What's going to happen with that knowledge when they retire? So it's really critical to be able to pass on knowledge and for teams to be able to collaborate in real time. You don't have time for weeks of people coming up with a solution that don't synchronize with the others. Now, once your team has been able to collaborate, what is next is basically one critical point, which is how are you going to reroute this trade? So your data is going to be able to tell you that. Each problem is different. Your plan B will change. This is our case-to-case situations. So what you need is real-time data, real-time collaboration for real-time execution. That is created through optionality. Orbitra is focused critically on creating maximum optionality and for the ability for teams, especially smaller teams that maybe can't afford digital transformation. We have some amazing leaders on this panel from MSC, from the Free Zone of Salada, as well as DP World. They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the SMEs and the smaller businesses by creating these networks. It's not cheap. And so that being said, for you to leverage these systems and communicate with the MSCs and these large institutions, such as DP World, your data has to be ready for them to be able to actually execute and for them to be able to leverage that deep infrastructure that they've built and deep knowledge. Like the saying goes, it takes two to tango. So it's very important that both sides of that data is valid, verified, and ready to go.
Thank you, Maha. We have time for just maybe one quick question for each panelist, but just maybe no more than 2 minutes because we're running short on time. Hisham, Saudi Arabia has real ambitions to be a logistics hub. Could you make the case to Brazilian companies why they should look to Saudi Arabia as a trade hub to the region and beyond to Asia?
Well, one of the one of the ambitions of the Vision 2030 indeed was that Saudi Arabia becomes a hub for connecting 3 continents together. Geographic-wise, actually, we have the ability because we have the Red Sea, we have the Arabian Sea on both the coasts. We can connect the cargo, or we can connect the logistics, let's say, moving around. But more than that, the important part is the commitments which are there in terms of, for example, the scenarios which we have seen today. Vision 2030 is still a few years to come, but I think the connectivities has already happened. And today we are connecting, for example, Africa to Middle East, we are connecting Europe to Middle East, we are connecting Asia to Middle East in that sense. So the integration, the readiness of the government, let's say, legislations, and also the movements of the cargo that today we are seeing, it is a kind of an example of how things are connected together. Okay, maybe still the railway connections needs to be in place all over, let's say, which is happening. The governments are working in terms of railway connections, but the actual, let's say, connectivity is there, and today we are seeing it. Saw it by force because of the crisis which was there, but today this is working. Now, going forward, let's say toward 2030 and beyond, I think the more important question is not whether the connectivity or the hub is going to be there or not. The more important question is that how sustainable this hub is functioning. And here we have still, let's say, things to do. We have still things to experiment, but the thing which is in place today in terms of hubs, as our colleague was mentioning, in terms of cargo movements, the ecosystem that connects these hubs together, today it is existing, and we are doing it through multimodal, as I have said before, and also in terms of the legislations, the rules and regulations, the connectivities which are there in terms of systems. All this is helping in terms of putting the ecosystem together and create a kind of a system that then we could say that, yes, the physical movement of the system is there, but then also the technology, the rulings, the commitments of the government are there to help for the ecosystem to work properly.
Thank you. Dr. Ali, Salalah has benefited from its location, but we have to be honest, it unfortunately hasn't been completely immune from this conflict. And despite Oman's neutrality, there were illegitimate Iranian attacks on Salalah port and on some other Omani ports. How have you managed that practically? How are you building resilience? How I've heard even things like insurance costs have been higher despite Oman being more removed from the rest of the region. How do you move on through this crisis?
Yes, thank you very much. I have prepared a few good points here as a result of what have been discussed, but I'll just reply to your question. Yes, actually change has happened. What happened in the region is really sad. The whole world is going mad, you know, and we are trying as Oman as to cope with all this change and raising the voice of peace. Let's come, let's meet, let's find a solution. And to be honest, in the free zone, for example, our operation is not really impacted by it. Few impacts happen in the port of Salalah. Yes, the insurance is hit because this is a normal practice for people shipping on a war region. But all these went back to normal within a couple of weeks because Oman has approached all the parties has put everybody together along with other partners. The most important, out of this important gathering, it's an opportunity. We need to talk about the opportunity, what we have to do to benefit the Brazilian business community and take the benefit of the Brazilian Arab setup, which is really amazing and doing great work. I'll just give you an example only and trying to anchor whatever I'm saying in a figure. Currently, the GCC market imports $20 billion of medicines and medical supplies. Brazil, as per the data published, it's only contributing 1 billion per year. You see, there is a large opportunity on this sector itself. Along with the food and beverage, talking about other sectors, there is a massive opportunity. The only thing that I said, as the doctor said, the professor, I totally agree with her. There have to be an understanding. There have to be a joint thoughts. We have to reflect what's going on. I think Brazil has a great opportunity to capture a large market share from the region there because there is a lot of potential. Now, let's really talk fact. China is actually benefiting from that region. Turkey now is coming on the ground under different reasons. So I believe we have to do something. And we are here as a friends and partner of Brazil. We are here in your country trying to work with you and put things together for the benefit of our nations. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Sara, so trade corridors don't just need ports, they need people to operate them. And you train logistics professionals in the Arab world. What are the skill shortages? What are the gaps that are holding back the region from achieving its goals in logistics? And is there scope for cooperation with Brazil on education, maybe in areas like halal and cold chain and so on?
The two main
Na verdade, as duas principais práticas estão relacionadas à sustentabilidade e às práticas que têm a ver com automação. Essas duas
coming few years, because actually the automation is nowadays not luxurious issue in any ports. It's a must. The proactive analysis in any port is very essential in order to work with a very resilient manner with port automation activities and with any emergency in the port. In addition to this, also the part related to the green port practices is very important. Actually, in Arab ports, we started already the green practices in many ports. I can tell in GCC and also in Morocco, in Egypt, in Jordan, we have very good practices related to the green practice and the sustainability practice in ports. When it comes to automation in ports, we have also in Egypt, especially in Port Said, in Damietta port, very good practice in automation. Also in Jordan, we have the single window. In Morocco, definitely in GCC, Dubai ports. But still, we can say that we need more collaboration and more capacity building in these aspects. When it comes to Arab Academy as a representative of the League of Arab State University, and under its umbrella, we serve the 22 Arab countries, particularly in the area of logistics. We don't only offer the capacity building for logistics professionals, but we also provide the international certificates in this area, like FIATA professional certificates in the field of freight forwarding, the higher FIATA certificate in the field of supply chain management, the IRU certificate in the field of the road transport, and also the IATA certificate in the field of the air transport, because as I mentioned before, the multimodal transport is nowadays is an alternative to the one mode of transport. However, having the synergy between Brazil and Arab countries, or the exchange of the experience between both sides in the automation and the green and sustainability practice in ports and the transportation and logistics field, I guess will be very important in the coming few years.
Thank you very much. And final words from Maha in Dubai. How do you reflect on? Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Sorry.
No.
So for me, a couple of things. Thank you for that. So I think there's some critical points that have been discussed throughout the forum, which is multimodal and also financial resilience. The truth of the matter is, financial resilience is going to come down to how well your data is organized. I think everybody within the financial ecosystem knows that automated systems are going to be coming online. And that liquidity is going to be attracted to where the data and the risk is more clear. So I think it's very critical that everyone take a step back and do a zoom out in regards to how they're structuring their data and how they're preparing it for financial resilience, how they can lower the cost of access to capital, for example, as Fabio spoke earlier. This is very critical, as well as finding the balance between privacy and collaboration. Organizations want to keep their data private, at the same time wanting to use these new technologies and being able to collaborate with each other. I think we're at a very interesting point where finally these technologies can actually be applied into supply chains, into logistics, and so many different ways. So very important for all organizations to evaluate, is their data ready for financial resilience? And is their team ready to collaborate in real time? Because I will say one thing, is there's a lot of liquidity out in the market. Bankers' job is to deploy cash, but they cannot do that without proper risk management. So the better that data is prepared and risk availability is clear, the more likely that companies will be able to attract liquidity, create optionality, and really be able to manage those tough times that will be definitely coming ahead. As the new financial system comes online, it will be filled with friction. And so it's very important for everyone to be prepared for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists. You shared lots of inspiring ideas about how the logistics and trade can be made more efficient and resilient. And I hope that when this forum convenes again next year, there will have been progress in building deeper links between Brazil and the Arab countries. Thank you very much.
Nós agradecemos mais uma vez a participação.
Thank you once again to the panelists, and we would like to invite onto stage our dear Rubens Hanu, member of the board of the chamber, to give our panelists their gifts together with Claudia Haddad, something from the Arab Chamber of Commerce. To this third panel, these third panel members.
Thank you for all of you. Muito obrigada. Thank you, Jesse. you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Bom, nós agora faremos um momento super.
So now it is a very important moment. I'm going to ask the photographers to be close by because we are going to sign the treaty between the Brazilian Arab Chamber of Commerce and the Hazelheim Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to invite Mr. Erev Shalav Swait, Ambassador of the United Emirates, and Duilio Aziz from the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce to sign this agreement between the Arab Chamber and the Hazelheimer Chamber.
Aí, muito obrigada. Mais uma salva de palmas aqui.
Let's give them a hand. A very important moment between the Arab Chamber and the Hazelheimer Chamber, showing all of the commercial agreement that we just signed here. We're going to have another flash panel now. It will talk about the opportunities of investment in Hazelheimer. And for those who don't know it, Hazelheimer is an emirate that is not well known to Brazilian entrepreneurs, but with a huge potential for internationalization of companies. So to talk about this subject, we are going to receive Rashid El Noemi, the General Director of the Chamber of Commerce of Hazelheimer, who is going to talk about negotiation. And we also have Natasha Reed, the Executive Director of Al Qasimi Foundation, and she's going to talk about the quality of life in environments of art, culture, and education over there too. So let's give them a hand.
Here, the word is yours. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة
Good afternoon, everyone, Your Excellencies and guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here with you representing the Hazelheimer Chamber and to participate in this important forum that brings together Brazil and the Arab world. First of all, I would like to thank the Brazilian and Arab Chamber of Commerce, excellent organization of the forum. Actually, Brazil and the Arab world have an economic and cultural relationship that is very constant, and today we are able to take these relations to another level. And we can talk about traditional commerce and move over to innovation, tourism, technology, and entrepreneurship. And that's what Hazelheimer can do. Why? Because you have a location, privileged location, and also advantages. And it also has a very good infrastructure. And considered the status, Rasselheimer allows the companies to get to the Arab market and also Asia, Africa, Middle East. We also have a diverse business community, and also in terms of logistic services and also food and beverages and other products. And over here we have the role of the industry of Hasselheimer, and in our chamber it wants to create an association between companies and create cooperation between the sectors. So we see several opportunities to be able to increase the cooperation between Brazilian companies and Hasselheimer and in the state of the United Arab Emirates. So ladies and gentlemen, today we are in the Hasselheimer Chamber of Commerce, and we are ready to be part of this trajectory, to be able to connect people, make dialogue easier, and transform the opportunities, true opportunities, and transforming them into partnerships. So we call the Brazilian entrepreneurs to discover this and to know about the opportunities and see the possibility of creating strategic partnerships and an open door for transformation in the region. And we're working together to create this association between Brazil and Hasselheimer and the United Arab Emirates in the Arab world. So I wish you success in this event.
Now, Ras Al Khaimah is a symbol of development and evolution. The spirit of nature is flourishing, and from its mountains, new horizons are visible. With a multitude of state-of-the-art factories exporting across the world, making a footprint almost everywhere. With its 5 ports located at the shores of the Arabian Gulf, Ras Al Khaimah has become an international gateway for all kinds of marine services and shipping, and its coasts are pulsing with life. At the epicenter is Sakra Port, the largest bulk handling port in the Middle East and North Africa. For those with drive and ambition, they will find in Ras Al Khaimah an established and diversified economy that offers enriching investment opportunities and international standards, complemented by a vision and strategy that has a focus on the future. Ras Al Khaimah is a base for leading international companies, and it has become a respected and reputed place for business, as well as a key exporter of high-quality products across many major economic sectors. Its beautiful beaches are lined with astounding offerings. Opulent resorts and hotels are aplenty, as if an artist had painted a fine scenery. For those who dream of reaching the peak of adventure, they will see scenery like no other in a tourist paradise. When the rays of the sun reach over the mountains, bear witness to a spectacular horizon. To be embraced with open arms, a magical city open to the world. Ras Al Khaimah.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's been a long day and a wonderful day. I'd first like to thank the organisers and the Arab Brazil Chamber for Commerce. It's been a wonderful day, and it's been a pleasure meeting so many people from so many different backgrounds across the Middle East and Brazil. So thank you, especially Mohammed and his lovely wife, Georgia, as well as the whole team of the Chamber. So thank you so much. I'm Natasha Ridge. I'm the Executive Director of the Al-Qasimi Foundation for Policy Research. I'm not in trade or commerce, I apologize, but what I'm really here just to briefly talk about is the opportunities for collaboration with culture and heritage. We often talk about trade as it's separate from other things, but actually the arts doesn't survive without support, without funding, without collaborations with business and with enterprise, with philanthropists and with many others. So it's in my role at the Al-Qasimi Foundation, we take care of culture and heritage. We run a very large art festival, the largest outdoor art festival in the Middle East, in the Gulf region. And we collaborate with many different companies. We also collaborate with many different embassies. And lately, we've been the last 2 years collaborating with Brazil. So we've been very delighted to welcome Brazilian artists and also architects. We have Rodrigo Otake here with us today. And we've been very delighted to do more. Also with chefs. Chef Jefferson Finger has been over and cooked for His Highness in Ras Al Khaimah. So we are really looking forward to more collaborations that extend just not beyond only the business and the trade opportunities, but in hospitality, in food and beverage, and in the arts and culture. And I'm not going to say too much because time is very, very short, but at the foundation, we have many grants for artists, we have grants for filmmakers, and we also have grants for academics. I think that's something else that maybe hasn't been discussed so much today, is the role of academia and the support it can give for all of these enterprises that you're all so worthily embarked on. So yes, I'm just here to really welcome you on behalf of Ras Al Khaimah in English, Dr. Rash and my counterpart Bilarabi. But yeah, ahlan wa sahlan, salam alaikum, and shukran jazilan. Thank you. And we'll just conclude with a final very short video on what's coming up in Ras Al Khaimah in terms of hotels. So if you're looking to come for a stay, there's some very exciting options soon to open.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bom, agora a gente vai fazer
So now we're going to have a quick coffee break, 10 minutes, for us to be able to reorganize our agenda so that we can leave and have our final comments. We have a few more treaties to sign, so 10 minutes, and we'll be back.
nosso coffee break. Eu peço a gentileza aqui para a gente continuar bastante atento para as nossas, digamos assim, nosso painel final. Antes teremos aqui mais algumas homenagens, assinaturas. Então, agora, dando sequência aqui ao nosso trabalho, eu gostaria de chamar ao palco a excelentíssima senhora May.
I'd like to call the ambassador of Egypt to recognize William Ajib Jr. from the Arab and Brazilian Chamber of Commerce. Please come up on stage. You are welcome.
A replica of one of the solar boats of the pharaohs. It is the boat that takes the pharaoh from our life to the afterlife. If you go to the new Egyptian Grand Museum that was just opened last year, you'll find the real boat in exhibition. This is to show appreciation to the work of the Arab Brazilian Chamber. You really trying to bridge the gap between our world, the Arab world, and Brazil. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigada. Vou pedir para o nosso presidente permanecer.
I'm going to ask the president to remain with us because now we're going to have the signing of the treaty between the Arab Chamber and the Federation of the Syrian Chambers. I'd like to call Ana Jalbou, the president of the Committee of International Relations from the Syrian Chambers of Commerce. Please come up on stage.
Welcome, Anas. Thank you, Anas. Do you like to say some more? Okay, just the microphone, please, to some small speech for him. Okay.
مساء الخير للجميع. يسعدني ويشرفني.
It is a pleasure to participate with you in this beautiful day in Brazil. And we signed this agreement. This is not only an agreement or a simple agreement, it represents the bridge where we are going to strengthen the relationships between Brazil and Syria. Believe me, most of the countries that follow the path of development. We in Syria in the last year, we have leaped, not walked. And the last report from the IMF shows that growth is going to be bigger than 10% in 2026. So development, every day we wake up to a new dream for Syria, a new dream of reconstruction for Syria. In the current Syria, we have the opening of more than 15 border openings with our neighbors. We also have an industrial park. We have an incredible human capacity, and we want to build our country as soon as possible and reconstruct what was destroyed over the last few years. And we would like to invite our friend William to visit Syria in October to form the entrepreneurial Syrian and Brazilian board to receive and develop relations that deserve Brazil and Syria, taking advantage of the experience in several areas like industry and agriculture. Syria has a beautiful story in the commercial sector, and we put our experience and we open our arms for all the countries, Brazil especially, to take advantage of this relationship. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And now we're going to talk about the relationship and the application of artificial intelligence in logistics and market intelligence, also allied to cyber security and fintechs. And we're also going to talk about the impact of Generation Z in the work in both regions, as well as the ethical branding challenges and the reputational risks in the current scenario. We would like to invite onto stage Simon Sennebeck, the CEO and founder of Wall Street. Welcome.
Good. I love the energy. Okay. I love the energy. Okay, first time in Brazil. Maybe I'll start with a couple of words in Arabic. مساء الخير. في بداية نحب نشكر غرفة.
Thank you to the Brazilian Chamber of Commerce for receiving us here, and I would like to welcome all the guests and everybody who is participating on the internet.
And Lebanon. So for me, as someone who's grew up in Damascus for over 12 years, for me it's a great honor to just follow the historic signing. That it was just a great coincidence. So congratulations for our brothers and our friends down in Syria. I've actually happened to have a privilege of visiting Damascus over 2 times in the past 12 months, and I can see really the construction and really the rebuilding of the nation. So fantastic work for everyone who's been part of that. Okay. A little bit more about the keynote and what we're here to talk about. We're going to talk about technology, and we're going to talk about the digital economy and the new generation, what we call Gen Z. I'm a millennial myself, born 1985, so maybe I'm one of the people who've been working 25 years now in tech. I still try to keep the young look. But I'm very well versed in what's happening in the technology, and maybe that's one of the things that we're going to talk about, what's happening in Brazil, but also across the Arab nations. So the first thing I want to talk about is bringing up the number, 320 million. That's how many people there are in Brazil and the 22 Arab nations that are under the age of 25. Take a look at that number. These are consumers, but very much different from the consumers that we've seen in previous generations. They're coming at things from many different angles. And the more interesting thing is they're looking more and more alike despite some cultural differences between Brazil and the Arab countries. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they trust, what do they use, and how do they pay for these things. So the first thing is, an interesting figure is that one of the first trends that I saw is actually a passion for digital gaming, both in Brazil and in the Arab countries. In Brazil, 75% of people, of the Gen Z, do digital gaming. They do play online. And in Saudi Arabia, we see 24 million almost that are gaming enthusiasts. So that's 2/3 of the country. So we're basically seeing that the largest shared consumer culture between the two regions is something that nobody has negotiated. It just emerged very naturally. And it just happens to be that 2 weeks ago, one of the largest buyouts happened to be from a Saudi sovereign wealth fund, PIF, led a massive transaction in acquiring Electronic Arts. So suddenly you have the most played console game in Brazil that is now Saudi owned. And that's just one of many trends that we're seeing across the digital economy. Now, let's zoom in a little bit more and take an example maybe from Abu Dhabi City, where we're seeing that young people, as young as 3 years and 4 months, that's the first time that they get access to a digital device. They are the youngest in the Arab states. And then you can look at Brazil, where 65% of young people between the ages of 9 and 17 that have already worked or experimented with generative AI. So this is not science fiction. This is truly built in facts. So the consumer relationship with technology is not starting even before literacy. And that's something to have in perspective. So the devices are in our hands, both in Brazil and the Arab nations, before even the alphabet. So, and one example, a prominent example that I usually bring up about Brazil is Nubank. Nubank has, I think the numbers in 2024 were 3 million bank users under the age of 18. So that is a fantastic example as well. Now, we've talked about those two regions. There's one number that stuck with me when looking at the research, and that number is 73%. Now, this is coming from two completely different surveys. And on the left hand, we see Brazil. 73% of orders came through WhatsApp in the previous month. Now, in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, we saw 73% of transactions happen through a social platform in the last year. So essentially, the storefront has moved into the conversation. And I just came back from China in Shenzhen. And for those of you who have been in China, you see you see WeChat, you see Alipay, you have these super apps. And I see more and more trends when it comes to technology of having something like this across the regions that we're talking about here. So it's two different windows, but it's the same consumer behaviors. And what is the word that we can describe this with? I think it's trust. It's digital trust. So let's take a look at the numbers. When we look at the age split, 95% of Brazilians in their 20s sent or received a Pix transaction in December last year. For those over 60 years old, that number is 51%. It's extremely high, even for someone who's living in Europe. So Brazil built a rail, a central bank owned, free for individuals and mandatory for the larger banks. Not a payment method for that the young adopted, but rather a default that they have inherited. So, and this is very interesting from a business perspective, because suddenly you have something that is cheaper than the competing alternatives internationally. Now, if we take a look at some of the Arabic countries, and maybe let's bring Saudi Arabia as an example, the Gulf states has come to the same destination, but through a different route. So not a central rail, but instead mobile wallets. So straight past the credit card schemes. If we look in 2019, we saw 36%. That number is now 85%. Of course, we can blame it a little bit on the pandemic. It has digitized and has fast-tracked a lot of the developments. But as a matter of fact, for those of you who are familiar with the Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia, the initiative by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, 85%, that has surpassed the 2030 vision already. So they are doing really, really well in that regard. So again, Brazil and the Arab countries, different roads, but the same destination at the end of the day. Now we can take a look at e-commerce, for example. 41% was the preferred payment of method. That was cash on delivery. In 2020, it was 41%. Now in some of the digitized nations in the GCC area, it is now down to 10%. So we're still seeing a lot of maturity that needs to happen in countries like Jordan, Morocco, Egypt. The cash on delivery is still much higher than the GCC countries. But as we're building the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure, we will see more and more people moving into the digital rails as well, just like here in Brazil. And there was something that caught my eyes. That was the 19% number. That's how many Brazilians that are using generative AI. But I did a little bit of my research, and I would like to challenge that number. There is a recent survey of 27,000 households in Brazil. That number is actually 32% now, and it's maybe even higher in 2026. But if we zoom in even more and look at that age split, between the ages of 16 to 24, it is over 55%. That means that actually, as we stand, Brazil is the world's third country when it comes to traffic on ChatGPT, just after the US and India. These numbers are staggering, and I think there's a lot of it that can inspire the Arab nations as well. So if we look at AI usage across the Arabic countries, there's a huge discrepancy. You have on the right-hand side a country like the UAE, which have one of the highest rates in the world, and then you would have countries like Saudi Arabia or Lebanon below 30%. So this is not criticism. This is just highlighting. There is a lot of AI innovation that is coming in the Arab countries. We have Falcon in Abu Dhabi. We have Alam in Riyadh. We have Fanar at Doha. We have Humane. So there's a lot of research. There is a lot of genuine frontier work that is happening. But there is a certain gap. And it's not a capability gap, because we're using the same models and exactly the same phones. So there is maybe some kind of a distance, even within the Arab nations, between what has been built and what has actually reached the consumer. And that is very interesting to address and to work on before it's too late. So from a business opportunity, everyone is building models, but almost nobody's building the layer in between, the business layer. And that means something between the model and the consumer, something that addresses language, culture, register, trust, payment, context. And that layer is where we can have really meaningful conversation and build business. Now, we cannot talk about AI without actually talking about language. And, I just spoke a little bit earlier in Arabic. I spoke the classic Arabic, al-Fusha. So everyone who speaks Arabic in the room most likely understood what I said, unless I have a very heavy accent, maybe not. But that's not the language that we speak at home. So in the Arab countries, we have a lot of different dialects, and that's not the language that you necessarily speak with your children. So when we look at AI and its understanding of formal Arabic and the various dialects and nuances of Arabic, we see it gets weaker and weaker. So the machine can speak Arabic, but it does not understand how it sounds like. And maybe to give it a little bit more of context, let's just take a look at the numbers in the recent Common Crawl machine archive. We see that 41% of the content that was crawled and indexed was in English. But in Portuguese, that was only 2.5%. Arabic is even less than 1%. So there is a huge pollution in between. I can give you another example that I usually talk about, and I spoke with Professor Jarar about it this morning. In Wikipedia, we have Egyptian Wikipedia in Masri, so in the Egyptian dialect. The Egyptian Wikipedia has more articles than the official Arabic Wikipedia. And that is contributed by two major accounts that are doing auto translation and machine translations for a lot of articles into Masri, into Egyptian Arabic. So these nuances are very, very important. Who's controlling this? Maybe that's a question for the panel to take a look at. And just to wrap things up and give you another flavor, we can look at Saudi Arabia, where over 93% of online shopping in Saudi Arabia actually happens on Saudi websites. And that is a market with 99% internet penetration. So localization is also market access. So that is very important. A brand has not localized until they've actually really understood the nuances of that market and that culture. Otherwise, they're absent. And maybe not just throwing a lot of stats at you, maybe coming with a proposal. as well for this room. So we talked a little bit about PIX, which is a phenomenal example of what Brazil has built. In the Arab countries, there is Buna by the Arab Monetary Fund. And actually, Buna, almost exactly in August 2024, almost 2 years ago, signed a historic deal with Pakistan to include the Pakistani rupee onto Buna, the RAAST. So why can't we see maybe a PIX integration along with Buna? That would open up an instant corridor for trade between Brazil and the Arab countries. That will enable the global South, the BRICS nations, etc., etc. So that's a proposal. Only the Buna-Rast collaboration is enabling $20 billion in transactions annually. So you can imagine what that number would be if PIX and Buna would have something in common. So I talked a lot about technology and set the stage a little bit for the panel. So what am I leaving for our esteemed panel? Actually, there's a couple of things I didn't mention, which I assume they will do. Governance, who's controlling this? Who is being representing those models, especially considering that only very little content from Arabic countries or from the Portuguese language are being included? Whose ethics are actually being encoded? And et cetera, et cetera. These are some of the things that I left out of the presentation that I think would be very interesting for the public and for the private sector to address. And finally, I want to bring it back to, the Chamber of Commerce launched in 1952 with a generation that opened with cargo ships. And maybe I would dare to admit that this one, the new generation, the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, will open with smart chips. So with that being said, let's open some doors and let's connect our worlds even further. Shukran jazilan, obrigado, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Muito obrigada, Simon Senevec, para debater então a...
Thank you, Simon Senevec. We're going to go into this very important topic about artificial intelligence and other data that he brought, especially with regard to the new generation. So I would like to invite Nina Silva, the founder and CEO of the Black Money Movement. Let's give her a hand. We also have Juliane Paulista, an AI executive from the Bank of Brazil. We also have Ayumi Aoki, the founder and CEO of Women in Tech Global. Let's give her a hand. And online, we're going to have Kinda Alterbook, CEO and co-founder of LabLab AI. She will be with us in a few minutes. And Nidal Abuzaki, General Director of the Orient Planet Group. He will also be with us online. And to mediate this panel, we invited Mustafa Jahar, the professor of AI from the Hamad bin Khalifa University in Qatar. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. And the floor is yours, Professor.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Thank you very much. Welcome to our panel. It's at the end of the day, but we will be talking about the future, and we will have your imagination how the world will be in a few years. And we will discuss the opportunities. We will actually, we have featured our speakers and panelists to show you how Brazil and the Arab countries will contribute to the future of AI. First of all, let me start actually by the panel by a personal story. Just two days ago, my nephew, who's 15 years old, he wanted to buy a mobile. He came to ask me what he actually found using ChatGPT. He did not go to see reviews on stores or whatever, or ask friends. He asked ChatGPT. And ChatGPT answered him to buy iPhone, not Huawei, not Samsung. And even he told him, I only have $5,000, sorry, $500. And ChatGPT convinced him to find another source of money to fund to buy iPhone. And he came to ask me some money. Now, this brings me to the panel, the future of consumers, the futures of marketing, the bias. We asked ChatGPT, ChatGPT is made in the US, and maybe if we ask DeepSeek, maybe it will recommend another product. So for you, if you are an Arab or a Brazilian, how you will market your data? Actually, also brings me to the security, because if you say, I only have $500, what does it mean from a security perspective? And so on. So let me first welcome our panelists and start a discussion how marketing will be in the future, how consumers will behave in the future. What is e-commerce in the future? Let's start with Dr. Nidal. Dr. Nidal, you hear us?
Yes, good evening, all of you. And thank you for inviting me to participate at this event. Actually, last time I participated in person. This time, unfortunately, I couldn't attend. So I would like to thank the organizers for this very interesting forum. And yes, so basically you asked me, Doctor, about the future of marketing. I think that the future of marketing is depending on 3 pillars. First of all, the human creativity, because whatever AI is going to generate, we are still going to have the human element. And then the second thing is the strategic thinking, and still we have a human element in this. And the third thing is that how we are going to use AI tools. So basically AI can automate in marketing the routine work, can enhance the personalization of, purchasing, of personal preference, and so on. And then it can improve the decision-making process by whether it's using marketing tools or in shopping. While the human element, the marketers increasingly can focus on innovation, the customer experience, the human relation with their customers, and so on. So companies who, marketing companies who can adopt AI responsibly and effectively are expected to achieve faster growth, higher productivity, and stronger customer loyalty. This is what's coming to marketing. So AI is still a tool, but it's highly depending on the human interaction and the human.
So, Dr. Nidal, will companies, if I have a company, to whom should I market? So, should I market to people or I should market to AI models?
Well, AI is at the end of the day, this is bringing us to e-commerce. I mean, where, these days AI is a tool to help us to sort more products. I think that the future of shopping in the future is not going to be the same model that we have today with Amazon, for example, or the like websites and so on. This is going to mainly depend on AI agents who are going to bring us the best opportunities. So basically, we expect that the shopping and e-commerce is going to have a transformation or a biggest transformation in its history, where we are going to, the current e-commerce system is not going to exist. We are going to have a kind of a new model where we can have more interaction with AI. So AI now is working as a kind of a tool to help us to sort products, where it can discover products, can compare prices, payment methods, fulfillment, after-sales service. So we are going to move from online stores that we have today into some kind of intelligent commerce where AI is involved and it can affect our decisions. So basically, this can create more opportunities to move from the current monopoly that Amazon and the big conglomerates are currently maybe controlling our shopping to more of a more smart shopping that is allowing some kind of entrepreneurs to enter the market. So the biggest change is that AI is becoming the shopping assistant.
So Kinda, since you founded a company called Labib, I guess. Labib, yeah. So a semantic search engine. How do you also see the future of or the behavior of consumers?
I think we are moving from a world where the consumer search for product to a world where consumers are describe what they need and AI help them discover the answer. Today, most of our large of the search query are based on keyword, but we notice from our clients and especially in KSA and Arab Emirates and all the Gulf area, that the user behavior start increasingly based on the internet. That means the companies will need to think differently about marketing. They will not be optimizing for human attention only. They will need also to make their products, service, and information understandable to AI system. Because the AI system will be the interface between them and the consumer. So, and this is especially interesting in Arabic because the Arabic-speaking consumer may not describe what they want using the exact commercial terminology that company accept. They may use dialect, conversation language, mixture of language, and we notice that's from the numbers, that's from our clients, that's around 90% of the queries of the stores in KSA, 90% of them, they are Arabic language and the dialects of standard language. And most of them, they are using now a long sentences, not only small keywords like I want t-shirt or iPhone. No, they start be more specific, as you mentioned. They talk like, I want comparison between iPhone and Android. I want to compare this stuff on the
So
other
you
side.
are trying.
So the AI can.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to interrupt you, but you are trying to say that the next generation of AI should understand dialects and actually and local culture, not necessarily dialect, but also local culture. This is what you mean?
Yes, for sure. And also, I will give you another example from what we noticed, that here in Emirates, 90% of the query they say in English, so no need to have local AI understand the Arabic. But the funny story that when we have multiple clients, we noticed that the generation Z, they use Arabici, or what we call the language that's changed the English to Arabic. So most of the queries are around 50% are this like this. So here you need AI, or let's say that the AI becomes the bridge between how the consumer express what they need and how the company organize their product and service, because the people are not writing as the same as the catalog. So I think the future you ask Dr. Vidal about marketing to human or marketing to AI. I think the future is not really marketing to human versus marketing to AI. It's about making your business understandable for.
Thank you, Kidna. Nina, you want to add something?
Boa tarde a todos.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to add onto that. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here with both of you and to know.
We are in Brazil. Yeah, I prefer to speak.
I prefer to speak in Portuguese. So I would like to add the issue of, just like what you said about marketing at the end. So, marketing for people and marketing for AI agents. It really depends on the degree and stage we're going to be able to make these connections between countries and development and access to AI agents. So, when we talk about global marketing, then the companies, they need to design the AI agents selling to other AI agents, because we're not going to see this Z generation rolling their feeds and comparing 20 or 30 different products like what I do when I put it on a spreadsheet and I start comparing prices between products or between stores. No. It's just like your nephew, right? Your nephew that asked ChatGPT about the phone. So, as a global company, you have to be connected to regional AI agents and also the local AI agents. But these local agents, they have to be trained culturally, not only in linguistic terms. So this issue of linguistics is very important. And we also have to look at the cultural aspect that is being trained and having this digital literature in the AI. Because maybe my niece will use an AI agent for something she's buying, and then the marketing AI agents have to be trained to speak to the other agents, but they also need to be trained to talk to other generations that are not going to be that connected, or they're not going to be in the same digital maturity.
Boa tarde, todo mundo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nino. I love this panel. We have all women, and not only women, of course, and it's a different hat in terms of diplomacy. And I would like to change to English, because when I left Brazil, I was 12, so I speak English better than Portuguese, especially on stage.
So I just wanted to compliment what my friend said. And I think yes, it is interesting, especially your nephew's story, because we are talking about, yes, I think tomorrow, even today, marketing it and the way people are going to be buying online is going to be mostly very much done by agents, right? But agents, we don't have to try and convince agents or seduce agents why your product is better. Agents are going to find the roadway. There's going to be.
How can we seduce agents?
How can we seduce it? By policy. So why did it change? Why did ChatGPT choose Apple? Why did it not choose Huawei, right? It will see where there are policy, similarities, where they can exchange data, and when the data flows can go in the best way, where there's tech diplomacy involved, where there are agreements involved, MOUs involved. And it's almost like the professor Ilan Manor, who is one of the most world-renowned digital diplomacy professors. He says it's the country of origin effect, right? So he gives an example which I find it quite astonishing. If you ask ChatGPT today, okay, if you have a very clear mind, when say if a product is made in Germany, you have a certain perception. If a product is made in China, or if it's made in Brazil, or if it's made elsewhere, you have another perception of that same product just because of the origin where it was done. So putting that into an AI, he was trying to see how does the AI respond. So saying for example, he tried in 3 different models, a US model, an American model, a European model, and a Chinese model. The question was, it's a bit political, but the question was, why does US support Ukraine, right? US will say, oh, because of the United States, they have to support the post-war stability and support allies. The European, they would say, well, it was a very huge invasion, and we need stability in Europe. And in the Chinese version said, well, that's typically Americans. They just want to put themselves forward and try to be the masters of the world while not taking any risks. And so 3 different models, 3 different answers for the same question. So whether it's a product, whether they're going to be buying, from one side or to the other side, it's going to be the same thing. The agents are going to find where there is reciprocity and where there's alignment. And that comes with the rules and with policy.
Thank you. This is really interesting. So just to summarize, that this is not summarized, to comment. This is actually an opportunity, even it's a challenge. What does it mean? So for Arabs and Brazilians, so now there is a new market for AI marketing. And there is a new opportunities also, you know, if you speak Brazilians, so it's better that you seduce agents, let's call it, by putting better content, data, AI data. You are better in AI data than everyone in the world when it comes to local products. So, but this now also moves me to a more challenging and more interesting banks. So how banks will actually function in the future? What is the future of AI banking or payments? So please try to to tell us what's going on in the kitchens of the banks nowadays.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll try to talk in English. I don't know if I could because it's past 6 p.m. but I'll try to. When you're thinking about agent in financial services, we are discussing a new theme about agentic commerce, which is what you're talking about here, this changing.
So just agentic commerce. Can you explain this to the audience?
Agentic commerce, it's about,
agent, maybe?
yeah. What is an agent? It's something, it's a software, but with generative AI involved, which means it's not a software deterministic, but a software that makes decisions, yeah? So you can automate processes, but in not a way just following step by step. You can just establish the goal of the process, and the agent will go through it. So it's different from a perspective of software. It's more intelligent. And when we think about applying agents to buy things, we are talking about agentic commerce. This year, first semester, we made the first transaction in Banco do Brasil by agentic commerce. We just gave the agent an instruction: buy me a box of beer for less than 80 reais, and that delivers me within 24 hours, okay? And then the agent made the transaction, yeah? So this is what we're talking about, not just using AI to make recommendations, as your nephew, the AI recommended to him, the iPhone, but the power of AI buying things in his name. So this is a new challenge, but it's also a new opportunity, because the enterprise, the companies, we're not going to have just customers, real customers, but we're going to have agents as customers. And agents don't buy the same way as customers, as real customers. They buy using, as she said, other perspectives, other data to take the decision.
So we expect banks to accept transactions from agents, not necessarily from humans, right? And agents will talk, and also you as a bank, you will have agents. So agents will talk with agents, right? No humans.
Yeah. Instead of, for example, me deciding to buy a new trip, instead of me deciding, are you going to ask my agent something like this? Find the best option for me within my budget, considering my preferences, my values, my previous experiences, and the agent will do everything. So if I gave him the power, my credit card, and etc., they just do the transaction. So it's, for the point of view of customer, it's something good, because it, like Nina said, today we're going to we have so many options to decide, and then it's something complicated many times. But also we are giving the AI the power to decide. So it is something very tricky.
So, okay, so it's actually future of agents, but this brings another question. Do we really trust, coming to trust, and also from a security point of view, so security and trust and privacy, do we really trust like US companies and Chinese companies to do this, to develop AI for us and to develop agents? Do you think there is somebody is listening when I send the question to Claude or to ChatGPT? Is there somebody is listening on the other side, trying to analyze and classify? Oyomi, you want to start?
Sure. And then maybe I can also give an example from my family. You know, sometimes we're just having coffee and we're chatting at the table or we're having lunch, and then we talk about, I don't know, our country or about something very specific. And then maybe an hour later on our Instagram feed, we're going to be, you know, something we haven't spoken about, you're going to see the picture and say, oh my God, they are listening to me and everything. And I said, of course they are. You know, when you say Siri, do this, it's not that they don't just wake up when Siri says Siri, right? It's there all the time. And it's all about data. Data gets feeds the data. So it's not being paranoid, it's just about, you know, the data protection and the data rules and the conditions that you signed for. So yes, it is. How it is done is all depends, you know, what app it is and what country it's sitting, what's the sovereignty, what's the data protection rules of that country. That will determine how your data is going to be used. And so do you trust the device? Depends, you know, what country, once again, it was done. Do you trust that Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Do you trust that with your data? If the answer yes, then it's great. If it's not, then you have to do something about it. But today, to have complete sovereignty, it's a bit idealistic. And as Professor Biola would say, you know, it's very difficult today for any country to be independent and to have full sovereignty. But you can try to have sovereignty, there are like in 7 different layers. So you can try and choose who you're dependent on. Sovereignty today is depending on your allies and who you are really dependent on, and not trying to put all the eggs in the same basket. So trust is the most difficult thing to build and to try it out, yes.
So I want to ask Julian, if that she mentioned data governance, what does it mean? And where Brazil is, and where are also the state of the art in the Arab countries, do you know, related to data governance? What does it mean?
Data governance, it's about caring for the data. It's understanding that the data, it's not from the company, it's from the customer. So we have to take care of this data in terms of security, privacy, and everything, not just to avoid mistakes or something, but also to provide the best way to protect this data. And also use this data in a way that put the customer in the center of decision. Like, we are using this data fairly, we are using this data to provide the best experience for this customer. And from the financial service point of view, we have some obligations, some regulations from central bank and also from LGPD, which is our GDPR equivalent here in Brazil, which obligates us to have, during all the cycle of the data, many steps to provide security. And so data governance, it's about organize data, to store this data and to provide the security in all this use.
So in the previous panel, it was mentioned that Arabs and Brazil shares kind of customer behavior, right? Same. So it means it's an opportunity for Arabic countries and Brazil to share experience in developing also data governance frameworks. In my opinion, this is extremely important, and how AI data should be collected, classified, and shared. So I see this is an opportunity. So I want to come to Nina. Nina actually founded something called the Black Money Movement, right? And first of all, can you introduce this simply to our audience? And because I have some questions, how can we learn from this experience in AI, especially in Arab communities and Brazil?
Muito bom trazer.
So at this moment that Juliani brought the issue about data, and the data, the people own the data, and then directly connecting with the Black Money movement, I wanted to bring what we have in literature. So where we have digital learning, because we can talk about governance of data with regard to the companies, but this is a crucial moment for the data to be treated and for it to be in the hands of those who actually own them. So the question that you asked about the banks and the fintechs, in our governance, we have the issue of cryptography. So the Black Money movement also has a fintech. We have cryptography that helps us to treat the data the way that LGPD and according to the central bank rules. But beyond this place, we have the obligation of bringing digital learning so that cybersecurity can be worked on. So we know that 85% of the problems that we have in terms of cybersecurity in the world are from human errors, because there is lack of digital learning and from people who are at home, putting sensitive data in the prompts, or those who are working in my team also putting in sensitive data from partners and customers. In our innovation hub about Black money, we're talking about majority groups who are actually minorities in terms of access. We're talking about access to credit, acceleration, and technology as well, access to technology. We have people learning about AI, how to insert data and digital marketing in their business. And in Brazil, we have 56% of the population that is Black in Brazil. And we have a female majority, and they are more entrepreneurs. And we had an increase in the women who are entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs, over time. The PICS brought an anomaly during the pandemic for us, and it was forced digitalization of these populations that had social vulnerability. So populations received emergency help because of the pandemic. They had access to PICS, and they didn't need a credit card to make a bank transaction. And the people who were forced to open an account in a fintech, they're the same ones that stopped moving these fintechs. So these are the groups that we work with today, and how these people are able to open business and formalize it and maintain their business, bring technologies that can leverage and connect them to the population that is also in this atmosphere of wanting to connect with what is common.
In few words in English, especially the philosophy of Black Money Movement is that so you said Black people are the majority in Brazil.
We are the majority in Brazil,
but they are
we
a
need
small minority in access, right?
Yes, that is it. And we need to circulate the capital inside the community
Okay.
with intentionally.
So this is actually a philosophy. Let's see majority and minority philosophy, or the interaction here. So I want to link this with the AI. So maybe the US companies are actually the minority. We are the majority. But we are a minority in access.
Yes.
So if all countries nowadays, they try to reach something called AI inclusive. So which means everybody want to push AI to speak, Arabic dialects, to represent more minorities, women, children, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, this is called inclusive. The opposite of inclusivity here is the autonomy. So what you try to actually promote is the philosophy, is the autonomy of the minority. So the question is, do you think it's a good idea and it's possible, whether it's possible or not, to have an AI autonomy such that countries or set of countries together, they develop their own AI and they use it, and they don't use the, let's say, the US or Chinese products. So what do you think? Is this is like possible? Is the economical autonomy of minorities is good?
Yeah, it's really good. And we can do this with open source programs. It's not a big, it's a big deal, but it's not so difficult. But we need financial investment to do this. And we need the public investment, Banco do Brasil, BNDES, okay? And the public politicians to include this in all agendas. Not just about Black or women, but the agendas of all social inequalities. When we have the possibility to put the literacy about AI and the credit for these groups, we can move the base of the social economy in Brazil. But not just in Brazil. All the countries of the South nowadays, I think the South Global is looking for our opportunities and to keep some, to put the challenges on the table and working inside the challenges with governments and the social groups.
I agree, and I was going to say, today the Global South, we're really talking. We are being left behind, I would say, and so it's now. If you look at Africa, it's like a neocolonialism that's happening. They, exporting all the data and they importing all innovation, and this cannot carry on. Today, Africa represents about, I'd say, it's 18% of the global population, but by the end of the half of century, 2050. 25%, that means 1 out of every 4 people in the world is going to be an African person. And by 2100, 37% of the world's population is going to be African. So if you see that demography is going to be exploding, but also the talent and the potential. But for that to happen, to be used, we have to invest in it right now. We have to invest in it, not just take away all the primary material, but invest in the talent, invest in the energy, and also to be able to close this digital divide that exists today.
So this means that, in the Gulf countries, we are building our own AI models for the audience, just to tell them that, for example, in Saudi Arabia, they have a model called Allam. In Qatar, we have a model called Fanar. And I think also in United Arab Emirates, they have Jace. Even in Tunisia, they have a model. So this is like, they develop it for sovereignty, not for autonomy. So it sounds to you as panelists that this is actually a good move. I don't know the situation in Brazil.
I think it's a good move. Even before AI, like for hundreds of years, they've got the literates. They're discussing about how language shapes thought, right? So the same way how language shapes thought, and we can read so many books, and and there's researchers also in San Diego University, Dr. Lera. She talks a lot about that. And so it does in some ways. And the same way, I think that AI, how language AI is going to be shaping thinking or innovation or the output that's going to be coming out on the data. So language shapes thought, yes, and in AI language does shape the results of what the way you prompt and the way the data is trained.
This is important because a model is not trained only by a language. The language is spoken is just one thing about a culture. A culture involves more than a language. Involves the humor, involves the values, how fashion and many things. So traditions, yes, history. So it's important that we have a model trained with our own data to have all this diversity shown in the model.
Thank you. I want to move the last part of the panel to discuss opportunities. Okay, so because our audience is also want to go out with ideas for business. So how do you see the Brazilian Arabic AI operation and digital commerce and marketing? So maybe Dr. Nidal, you want to tell us, you are here.
Yes. Very interesting question. Actually, I just finished a book. I launched a book 1 year ago.
Congratulations.
About digital transformation in the Arab world and smart cities and the application, the economic and social implications on the people. And then being a person who worked with Arab Brazil Chamber of Commerce for 15 years, I know the opportunities and the challenges, and I can summarize them very briefly. So the challenge is that the distance between the Arab world and Brazil was always the hindrance and the backlog for the increasing the trade and the exchanging the knowledge and then the business opportunities. But from the other side also there is a big Arab people in Brazil from Arab origin, around 8 million people who can be like a bridge between the Arab world and Brazil. I have actually summarized a few initiatives. Now, because of AI and the digital transformation, I think that there is a great opportunity to further develop the business relations between the Arab world and Brazil, especially on the SME and startup sector. Because I think
so, Dr. Nidal, we want you, if you hear me, Dr. Nidal, can you just go direct and name some opportunities?
Yes, so the opportunities, I will not go into details. So first of all, that there is AI Trade Bridge. I think that the AI Trade Bridge is a kind of an integrated AI platform that's giving businesses in both areas real-time demand forecast, and it can directly strengthen the Arab-Brazil ties by transforming trade from a reactive relationship into a proactive one. The second initiative is that online business matching sessions, because an opportunity like this where we are working online, so we can create business matchmaking sessions, online sessions. And the third initiative will be a trilingual deal platform, so we can launch a website in 3 languages that can cater to the SME sectors and to the especially the technology companies, because most of the trade now is in traditional commodities. And then the fourth initiative is B2B virtual business events, where we can create business matching events between the Arab world and Brazil on regular basis. And then the fifth one, which is the payment gateway, like to facilitate a kind of a fintech partnership linking Brazil trade to the Arab world as well, especially that we have in Brazil many famous fintech companies with international standards. And then the sixth initiative will be a startup accelerator platform, because we have at the moment 20,000 startups in Brazil, and I think that we have thousands of them in the Arab world. We can match these startups through an accelerator platform. And then the seventh one will be a cross-border talent exchange, because we believe that we have talent that maybe is needed in Brazil, and Brazil is having talent that's needed in the Arab world. So these are 7 initiatives that I will not book.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nidal. I want to actually to take this to digital payments and opportunities to Julian to name also some opportunities, not necessarily in banking, but maybe you have other ideas.
Oh, yes, thank you. I do think that we have many opportunities to collaborate. Some challenges that we are facing to scale AI are not yet answered. For example, guidelines for responsible AI. We have a lot of issues to discuss about autonomous AI and about agentic commerce, as I said before, about defining limits, about defining responsibilities.
This is related to the Brazilian Arab Chamber of Commerce?
Maybe, I don't know if it's something that
I think this is really an action point.
Yeah, because
that we can, after 2 years in the forum, we can come here and discuss our progress. Because this is immediate action we can follow up.
Yeah, to establish protocols, to integrate operations, and these guidelines, especially for AI governance and data security. So this is something that is still being built in the industry. We don't have this finished yet by the big techs. So I think to collaborate, to build this together, it's a big opportunity.
So not only business people, but AI agents will be members in the Chamber of Commerce in the future, I believe. So yeah, please.
Só complementando,
I just wanted to add venture capital. Venture capital needs shared funds. So take advantage of the diplomacy that we have today in the global south. Take advantage of being close to G20 and the BRICS and everything we've been doing, this dating that we've been having over the last few years, but sitting down and really designing investment funds directly to create sovereign AIs with an open code, open source, to be able to share data. So I do not have direct investment in the public sphere. For 20,000 students in Brazil, in connection with Angola that we connected today, Mozambique, and several other countries that speak Portuguese that have a Black population, because we recognize each other and we recognize our inequalities. And the moment is now to be able to build opportunities. So I'd like to take advantage of the fact that we are in the commercial world. How can we create sovereign AI to directly support our business, our local business, and then we will be able to make the exchange between our connection networks. So it is a moment of creating VCs, venture capital, that will be directly connected so that we can invest in startups, local startups, women startups, and young people startups, so that they can oxygenate the AI, so that AI will look like the global south, so that not only the language will be spoken, but also representing traditionally and culturally, and bring opportunities to the table of those who never had it.
Move, actually, before we finish, to Kinda to answer a question, because he's in the United Arab Emirates. So there are local models, as I mentioned, Fanar, Alam, Jace. There is a lot of investments in the Arab world in AI. There are a lot of startups, entrepreneurs. So I want to ask, if I am a Brazilian entrepreneur, how can I go to the Arab countries and get money, and vice versa? If I am there and I have ideas, is there a place? So can you comment on opportunities for entrepreneurs and startups, Kenda?
Yeah, yes. I think there is a huge opportunity between the countries, between the both countries. As you mentioned, you see a lot of significant investment in local models, just Alam and Fanar, and a lot of building ecosystem between the Arab startups. building not only focusing on the translate the language, the LLM, they try to build new models that understand the context, the intent, and all this stuff, or the culture of the Arab region. I see the opportunity here is not for the Brazilian founders to exchange the idea, not only the ideas, but building products together for both markets and focusing on, because both of them, they understand the context of their country and how to convert it to real business, especially in the e-commerce. For example, building agents understand or e-commerce agents for the stores and helping the founder or the owner of the store or WhatsApp website or even the LLMs to connect with their consumer. Here there is contribution between the posts to understand, especially that you have a lot of Arab people who live in Brazil and the same. So this collaboration can help both markets and to give, let's say, exchange the ideas about building, let's say, RAG LLM software that help for data sovereignty and other stuff that's very important to have it for local market.
Thank you very much. I think there are, yeah, indeed, as you mentioned, lots of opportunities, at least also to exchange the know-how, because in the Arab countries, we build AI models for just for Arabic. So if you want to build for Portuguese, I think it's also, there's a lot of opportunities and exchange here. I will come now to tech diplomacy. Have you heard about this term?
Tech diplomacy.
Tech diplomacy. So
Technology
I want you,
diplomacy,
you know, before you answer, so can you imagine you have most ambassadors of the Arab countries here in front of you to tell them what is it and how to move to this.
All right.
And by the way, she is the founder of the Tech
Diplomacy Global
also.
Institute, yes, that we founded about a year and a half ago, and we are down with our second global forum that we did this year in UNESCO headquarters in collaboration with UNESCO. And we're very honored to have the tech ambassador of Brazil, His Excellency Eugênio Garcia, who is part of our supervisory board. He's in Brazilian today, but Brazil, he was one of the first, it was the first South American country to appoint a tech ambassador, which is part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
What is a tech ambassador?
So what is tech diplomacy? That's a very good question. So tech diplomacy at its core, it's how nations are navigating this changing world, you know, where technology is the most powerful force shaping international relations today.
So it's ambassador to who?
So it's the ambassador not only to a country, but to an industry, right? And so to make it simpler, I said we've got three angles of ways to see tech diplomacy. The first one is tech with diplomacy, right? Or diplomacy with technology. What does that mean? It means when the first tech ambassador, he was from Denmark in 2017, he was appointed, he didn't go to Washington, DC, or to Paris, or to Geneva. They sent him to Silicon Valley, because that's where the tech industry is. And today, a Google or one of those big companies, they have as much power as a government, right? And you can see only...
So the ambassador will actually have access to the industries.
So they can talk to industry, but not only, so they're going to be negotiating ways to collaborate with industries or with the tech companies, but also with other governments, right?
With other ambassadors.
With other tech ambassadors. So for that to happen, for this discussions to happen, and then I'll give you a concrete example on how it can be beneficial for Brazil and for Arab countries, to be around the table to discuss and to see what the collaboration opportunities are, you have to have a counterpart. So if tech ambassador of Brazil, who was appointed on the 8th of October 2025, he's sitting on a table in front from the Arab country, there's no tech ambassador to date. We have Oman, who has Ambassador Tuful, who's not yet an official tech ambassador, but she's the closest to a tech ambassador that can be in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Oman.
So in the Arab countries, which countries have ambassadors? And do you know them?
So So there are none with a real tech ambassador role. There's no countries.
yes.
So we've got people that are, so there's a minister of AI in the UAE. And I must say that we have signed an MOU of 5 years with the Ministry of UAE on a program on AI, 5X AI Accelerator. But there is no tech diplomat.
Well,
And this
I
is
know
why we're
that
pushing for that
there
support.
is a tech embassy for Syria in Qatar. This is very strange concept, where they want to help Syria with technology to give them access to their own government applications and infrastructures, but they don't want to have their own the Syrian data in the platforms of Qatar. So instead, they make a copy of their systems in an embassy that belongs to Syria, and they allow them to do this kind of work. So it's a new concept.
Which was also done in Europe between Estonia and Luxembourg, especially after the war when Estonia was attacked. But so this is the world
So
we're
which
living
countries
today.
have experience in tech embassies, ambassadors?
So tech ambassadors. So most of the countries that have tech ambassadors are from the global north. So we've got Canada, we've got Mexico, we've got Austria, we have Luxembourg, we have France, we have Denmark, we have the US, we have Singapore. But from the global south, we have Brazil. Yay, Brazil. We have Cabo Verde, right? Tiny country, and we help them institutionalize and appoint a tech ambassador in Cabo Verde. We have Kenya, the first African country was Kenya, and is His Excellency Philip Chigo, a friend of mine.
But some people will say, of course, if it's a tech ambassador, it will be in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But some people will say, well, we have a focal point in the ministry. Is this enough, or what's the difference between having a focal point?
I think we can't give it, so this is part of my research, is institutionalizing tech diplomacy. We can't say to a country, you should do it that way, because it's still a very nascent kind of international relations, But what we can say, it is about talking to other countries and trying to build bridges and to build trust. So that goes to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? Where you put it in the government, that's the level of importance that you give in technology. In Cabo Verde, for example, the tech ambassador is a deputy prime minister, because they think that's the utmost importance. Because although it's a tiny country of less than 1 million people, what they do have, they've got their own data center, they've got underwater cables that are linking Europe, Africa, and Brazil. So they're very strategic on infrastructure, and they know the importance. If this little country wants to be someone in the world, and they can be, and they are, they have to be on the table. And to be on the table, though, you have to have a representative. They can just say, oh, we have someone, I'm not sure who it is, but I know there's someone there that's taking care of that. Okay, who is that? Who's that person? We don't know.
Thank you very much. I think this is very important concept. And it's also an opportunity to explain it to our
so we can help you. So
ambassadors
please come
here.
and speak to us.
And I think, thank you all. This is interesting. I hope it was a useful panel. Mic to you.
Thank you so much. Agradecemos a participação dos nossos convidados.
Thank you to our guests who are going to receive a gift from the Arab Brazilian Chamber of Commerce. And it will be handed by Abdul Neto and the directors. Please hand out the gifts to our panel members. In our last panel, talking about artificial intelligence. Disruptive transformations, especially in technologies and women, financial issues as well. That was excellent. Let's take a picture.
Tem mais uma entrega aqui. Thank you. Obrigada. Muito obrigada. A gente segue.
Thank you very much. Moving to the closing of another economic forum between Brazil and the Arab countries. I am sure that it was a day full of information and with lots of business to be closed. There's always a bridge between Brazil and the Arab countries in the different topics that demand our nations. So I would like to now invite you to watch a video with the best moments of the day. Very special day.
Edição do Fórum, um evento que de fato se consolida como uma plataforma de debates sobre os rumos da relação bilateral entre o Brasil e os países árabes. Além, é claro, de propiciar um espaço fundamental para que as instituições, tanto governamentais quanto privadas também, fortaleçam laços de cooperação mútua entre todos esses países.
Excelente. Muito bom. A gente já está.
All right, I just have to ask William Ajibi to come here to close the forum with his last comments about the 5th Economic Forum of Brazil and the Arab countries. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We have come to the end of this 5th Economic Forum between Brazil and the Arab countries, and I would first of all like to thank you all for joining us and participating during the day. Special thanks to the authorities who came, the leaders in the different sectors, the government representatives and institutions, and especially the entrepreneurs who came to this meeting to share experience, establish connections, and search for new business opportunities. Your presence has given meaning to this forum, and it strengthens the Arab-Brazilian Chamber of Commerce and bringing Brazil closer to the Arab countries. I would also like to thank all the speakers, the moderators, the partners, and the teams who worked to make this work. Thank you very much to all those who contributed to the day. More than closing this forum, I would like to reinforce that the Arab-Brazilian Chamber of Commerce is available to all the Brazilian companies who would like to enhance their international action and internationalize in Arab countries with planning, assertiveness, and safety. So we have experienced professionals that have deep knowledge about the Arab markets, and they will be able to support the companies in each phase. I hope this meeting has left you with new connections, ideas, and above all, you're sure that the Arab Chamber will definitely bring business, long-lasting business. Thank you. Thank you very much once again to our president, William Ajibi Jr., for his final remarks. Once again, thank you to all the panelists and guests who are here, participants, and those who were with us online as well through our platforms. We have more than 1,000 participants from several different countries. And once again, I would like to thank our sponsors, Ambras Halal, Academia Internacional Halal, Vale, DP World, Cedil Halal, Fabi, MBRF, Qatar Airways, and MZAH Investment Group. You were incredible. Thank you very much for your comments today. Thank you to all the board who was present. Thank you very much for the organization and all those who are in the backstage, the people who stay in the house. Thank you very much. We know that your work starts long before everything else. So thank you very much for your support. And also everybody who was with us in person, the people from marketing and events from the Chamber of Commerce, Marina, Veronica, because your work starts months before the forum. And the board, once again, thank you. It's an honor, and I'm very proud to be here again. It's a way of valuing my Arab origins, being here, and the honor of always conducting this event that potentializes this very important relationship between Brazil and the Arab world. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.